A Mecklenburg County judge is leaving dozens of families in limbo after refusing to enter orders in their cases for more than 2 years.
2 years. WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner has found that not only is she not doing her job, she's seldom working a full day. Nick joins us now in studio with more on this. Nick.
Yeah, Jamie, Maureen, Judge Aretha Blake took the bench in January 2017. Since then, she's racked up more than 50 cases involving things like child custody or child support where she hasn't entered an order, all more than 2 years old. But her failure to do her job hasn't brought any consequences for her. Maybe because people are afraid to speak out. I contacted more than a dozen people to talk about Judge Blake's delayed orders before I found one woman willing to talk, and only if we took steps to protect her identity. Everyone else was afraid of the retaliation they'd face for speaking out about a judge who apparently just won't do her job. Are you afraid of what would happen if she knew that you were doing this interview?
Terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Why is that?
Because of the retaliation that I feel sure that that she would bring.
We can't tell you this woman's name, and we agreed not to show her face. She's still afraid of the consequences she'll face for talking about the delays she's experienced in her family law case that's been pending before Judge Aretha Blake for more than 2 years, since 2017.
The time, the stress, you know, the impact that it has on families, it just keeps going with no end in sight.
This woman's been waiting for Blake to enter an order for child support. The years-long wait has meant she's not gotten any support while raising her children.
I have had to rely on credit cards to just get by from month to month.
Every day that goes by that Judge Blake doesn't do her job in your case has a real-world impact on your life.
I've had to go deeply in debt that I never would have had to do had she entered a child support order.
Her case is one of 52 on this list we obtained of cases awaiting orders from Blake. All of the cases were heard in court in 2017.
She's an elected official that was elected to do a job and apparently has decided she wasn't going to do her job, and so 52 families are suffering as a result of that. No, she's not doing the job that she was elected to do.
So what is Blake doing? Swipe logs from the courthouse for October of last year through late January show she only worked 14 8-hour days out of the 74 days in that time period the courthouse was open. To compare, a person who worked a full-time job in that same time period would spend 600 hours at work. The swipe logs show Blake, who makes $122,000 a year, spent a little more than half that time in the office, 376 hours. We wanted to ask Blake questions about the case backlog and her work habits on camera. We sent these emails outlining the topics we'd like to discuss and asking for an on-camera interview, but got no response. So we found her one day this week before an event.
Hi, Judge Blake. Hi, Judge Blake. Nick Oxner at WBTV. How are you?
Nick, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm hoping I can talk to you for a few minutes about your presiding in district court.
Well, as you're very much aware, I am here at the Tuesday Morning Breakfast Forum about to speak to constituents. You are welcome to stay as a member of the public, but right now I do not have the opportunity to interview.
Well, ma'am, why are you unwilling to answer our questions?
I responded that now is not the time. You are totally disrupting.
When would be the time? When can we talk with you?
Not appropriate.
The same day we found Blake to ask our questions, a courthouse spokeswoman sent this statement, defending Blake's work schedule and pointing out there were at least 40 days where Blake worked 6 hours. The statement doesn't explain why there are 52 cases in which Blake hasn't entered an order. 52 families waiting in limbo for justice delayed.
I mean, who would ever imagine that a judge could just do this and just decide that she wasn't going to do her job?
Do you think she understands the toll that her inaction is taking on you and your family?
Yes, I do think she understands, but I don't think she cares.
Now, Blake's written statement also says the courthouse swipe logs don't reflect the time she spends working outside of the courthouse, but the statement didn't provide any other records or point us in the direction of any other records that would reflect her work hours, and neither she, Chief District Court Judge Reagan Miller, nor Mecklenburg County Clerk of Court Elisa Chingary have responded to our request for records that would give us a more clear picture of what Blake is doing instead of issuing orders in those 52 cases from 2017. Our investigation continues.
A local district court judge does not want you to see this next story, so much so that she took WBTV and investigative reporter Nick Oxner to court to ask a judge to prevent us from reporting it. The judge presiding over the case denied the request, citing the First Amendment, and we are bringing you the story now.
We first reported on Judge Aretha Blake in early February after learning of families who spent months or years waiting for the judge to issue dozens of court orders. These are orders for things like child custody and child support that have huge impact on people's lives. Since that report, Judge Blake, her attorney, and her supporters have said that reporting is inaccurate and that she has no outstanding orders. But WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner has found otherwise. Nick?
Well, Jamie, Maureen, I've spent weeks digging through court records and reviewing paperwork, but this story really exists in homes around Mecklenburg County and in courtrooms like the one I sat in this morning. Last night, a woman spent the night in the Mecklenburg County Jail for not following an order from Judge Blake. The woman's lawyer said today in court that Judge Blake had announced other decisions, but had not reduced those orders yet to writing, so her client didn't know what to do.
Judge Aretha Blake wouldn't answer our questions, but wasted no time refuting our story about dozens of outstanding orders in cases she'd heard. She sent this press release the day after our story aired. Her supporters held a press conference 2 weeks later to denounce our reporting.
These allegations are false, unsubstantiated, unfounded, and demonstrate a lack of journalistic integrity.
And then she went to court seeking an order from a judge trying to stop us from airing this story.
Issue an injunction.
After that, the Mecklenburg County Trial Court Administrator issued a statement from the 26th Judicial District saying the Clerk of Superior Court and Family Court Administrator's Office performed a review of 52 cases and determined every file contained an order entered by Judge Blake. The statement doesn't specify when the review is conducted, nor does it indicate whether the orders were in the files at the time of our earlier report.
When you read that, what'd you think?
It made me sick to my stomach, the way that I read it. It was deliberately misleading.
This is the same woman we spoke with in early February, who's still afraid to show her face out of fear that Judge Blake will retaliate against her for speaking out. She's been waiting nearly 3 years for Blake to enter a child support order in her case.
I do not know if there will ever be justice.
The child support order in her case is one of the orders Blake says has been entered.
Have you gotten an order in your case?
No.
And that written order is important because even if a judge announces a ruling in court, it doesn't take effect until it's reduced to writing, signed by the judge, and filed with the clerk.
It took 22 months for that to happen in Karen Conroy's case for post-separation support and child support that Judge Blake first heard in February 2017.
We showed up at the courtroom October 17th, 2017 for a ruling, and the judge never showed up. That was a $1,000 day for me to show up with my attorney to sit there.
Records show Conroy's ex-husband went months without giving Conroy any support while the order was pending. He didn't have to without an order, even though she was a single mom raising 4 young children.
I had many sleepless nights. I slept with a bucket next to my bed. I would wake up in the middle of the night vomiting. It created incredible amount of anxiety, depression, sadness, fake happiness around friends and family, waking up to my children, putting on a front to them.
The Handbook for Best Practices and Guidelines for North Carolina's courts say all family law orders should be filed within 30 days of a hearing. And state law requires all child support cases be completed within 60 days. But that didn't happen in Conroy's case. It also didn't happen in this case, where the Court of Appeals entered its own order directing Blake to put her ruling in writing and file it with the clerk.
You lose trust in the whole process.
Were you surprised to hear that there were dozens of other families that were in the same boat as you?
I was blown away. I had no idea that other families were also dealing with this. I thought we were just the only ones, and I could not figure out why Why were we being treated like this? Why were we being ignored?
Conroy provided these emails showing lawyers for both her and her ex-husband sending monthly reminders to Blake asking about the order. To no avail. Conroy says that the delays caused by Blake's prolonged rulings cost her more than $100,000 in lawyer bills.
Brought it to court for answers and help and fairness.
And you didn't get that.
I did not get that.
And Judge Blake's delay in entering orders continues having real costs for Sarah DeMason, who spent Thursday night in the Mecklenburg County Jail. A different judge found her in contempt for violating an order entered by Judge Blake. The problem? DeMason, the attorney, and even the new judge all acknowledge there are rulings Judge Blake announced in her case in 2019 that still haven't been reduced to writing, signed, and filed with the clerk.
I wasn't able to go home last night to my kids.
What would you tell Judge Blake about how she has impacted your life?
I would never wish this on anyone, and I hope that she would never have to experience what this is like, because I think if she had ever experienced what this has been like for over the last so many years, she might look at things a little bit differently.
So when you go to the courthouse, in your case, do you think you're going to get justice?
No. And that's what makes me sad.
In court Wednesday, Judge Blake's attorney said his client had no outstanding orders.
This court would have the ability to look at all 52. We can stay here all night. I have nothing else to do to look at these.
But a review of more than 100 case files previously assigned to Judge Blake over the past 3 weeks and conversations with multiple confidential sources suggest otherwise. We found dozens of cases with orders not in the case file.
These things are not easily figured out.
Because these files, which are still all paper, are complicated, we asked for other records too, including information from a computer system maintained by the trial court administrator tracking each action in a case, emails to Judge Blake, and records the clerk's office might have that aren't in the case file. To date, virtually none of those requests have been fulfilled, and the court system has said it wants to charge more than $3,000 to even search for responsive records. We offered to meet with Judge Blake or her lawyer to review the details of our findings, but they declined. Meanwhile, people like this woman, who hasn't gotten a child support order in nearly 3 years, continue to wait, helpless.
Have you gotten an order in your case?
No.
When you hear her say she has no outstanding orders, what does that make you think?
That she's not telling the truth, at least about our case.
Now, our review of the files did confirm that after our first story aired earlier this month, Blake entered orders in 2 outstanding cases, the Monday after our story. It's important to note our reporting continues. Guys?
Nick, thank you. Yesterday, after the statement released by the trial court administrator's office calling our reporting into question, we also asked to meet with both the clerk of court and trial court administrator to review our findings. They did not respond.